Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm Goradia. Today I'm going to film a different sort of video. I just woke up from a dream I had that I feel inspired to share with you in case it helps. So, yesterday, as I was doing things around the house, I was listening to news and podcasts and different things. And there were so many different opinions, of course, of what's going on in the world with the economy and politics and war and so many things, so many conflicting opinions, all disturbing information. And I noticed that I was trying to figure out what is true and what to believe. And I think what we think about right before we go to sleep, oftentimes we have dreams about those things. So last night I dreamt that amidst all this chaos, I had booked a hotel room that I had all my stuff in, and then I had to go out the next day, and then I forgot where my hotel room was. I just knew it was at the Marriott. And so, but throughout the day, I couldn't find it because more and more chaos kept happening. So many different things regarding, food and money and getting lost and confusion, and then forgetting that I even had this room. So I had all my stuff in one room, but I needed to book another room because I was going to be in a different area. And I've taken these dream interpretation classes many years ago that talked about a house representing the mind. And the first floor of the house is like conscious mind, and basement is the subconscious, and second floor would be more of a transcendent level of consciousness. And so I was thinking, what is a room? What would a room be? And what I'm putting together, just from what these symbols mean to me personally, in addition to what it could mean for the collective. So you always interpret it personally, your personal symbols in your life and what you've developed and known for things to be as you see what comes true and what feels right. So I took this to mean my conditioning or my beliefs. So each room would be a different belief, and I was looking at conflicting beliefs and trying to figure out which one. And my stuff, I think it is my consciousness or attention I had invested in one, and but should it go here, and what is true? And you all know non-duality is about trying to figure out what's true, but not in this way, not through beliefs. So I'm going to get to that in a moment after I finish telling you my dream. So when I was trying to figure this out, in the dream, I was given a message. And it said, I'm just going to read it. I wrote it down exactly this morning. Why are you chasing your room? You're skinny. This is not talking about the body. This is talking about our identity. So why was I chasing a room, which would be a boxed in belief, and going from one to another? And when you get these messages from spirit or subconscious or your higher self, however you want to think about it, just a transcendent message, there's oftentimes a play on words. And they're funny. Like they have this humor, and it's something that you wouldn't have thought of. So when I first heard that, I didn't even hear it. It was like a thought. It wasn't audible. I was like, what are they talking about? Like, what does this have to do with anything about the dream? And then I said, oh, wait. So why are you chasing your room? You're skinny, right? But it was also talking about the room at the Marriott. So I take this to mean, and I'm open to your guys' interpretations. Feel free to pop it below. But I took it to mean, why are you chasing these beliefs and this conditioning and this space, right? Not the space in the non-dual way, like the space that's the freedom, but like, why are you chasing all this room, this added on stuff to you when your identity is skinny? It's just this ability to let go and not attach to things. You know, attachment is the cause of suffering. Our attachment to things is what causes the pain, not the things within themselves, not the circumstances within themselves, though it can really feel like it. It's our attachment to things being a certain way. So I haven't finished the dream yet, but I wanted to tell you this message I got at the end because it explains the room part. Okay, so why are you chasing all this stuff that's not who you are? It doesn't matter what belief you have. I understand there can be in this relative reality that we're in, a skillful way of believing in something where it's what's the predictive quality of that belief? Is that useful? Is that skillful in the environment that I'm in? And that's reasonable. So I'm not saying just throw out everything, though. If you go all the way in non-duality, it would be like, I don't believe anything, but that doesn't mean that I don't have a conscience and that I won't respond to the present moment in a way that is the right thing to do, right? In that moment, it's just that I won't be using a conditioning or an old tape or an old belief system and just hoping it magically meets the present moment. I will just be present and aware to exactly meet the present moment as it is and as it requires. So you still do the right thing. So we're not throwing out basic integrity, values, those sort of things. But it's what tool we use to meet those things. Do I use my conditioning of my ego, my program, or do I use a higher level of awareness than ego, my awareness, my presence? So as I'm trying to, call the Marriott, trying to figure out where was my old room and I need to book a new room, I just had a 1-800 number. And I think in that dream, it was 1-800 Marriott. And I was like, oh gosh, my phone doesn't have the letters with the numbers like on the old phones. So I had to figure out how to dial this number. And I was like, oh my gosh. So for all of these numbers, this probably doesn't make sense in real life, but in the dream it made sense. For all of these numbers, I have to say my ABCs until I get to the number. And usually it's not that way. Usually you would have to count, I think, to get to the letter. So I'm like saying my ABCs, getting back to basics, right? Getting back to the fundamentals. Now I have children around me and we're all saying our ABCs and we're laughing. And I was like, why is this so hard that I have to say all my ABCs before I can even dial this number to reach the Marriott to change my room? But in looking in this dream, in hindsight, it's like, wow, okay, coming back to basics, coming back to what do I know for sure? Something we learn far before beliefs are formed, right? Just the structure of words. And of course, in non-duality, words aren't it, they're pointers to it. But this is an analogy in the dream. And as we're like, oh, or as I was like, why is this so hard? The kids are just like laughing at me, but laughing with me. Like, and I just start laughing. And as I'm laughing, I notice, yeah, but there's still so much confusion and pain, but I'm laughing and it cuts the tension. And in this laughing, I remember who I am in this dream. And it's like becoming like a child and being able to, oh, I'm getting tingles as I say this, and being able to remember who we really are. So it's not making light of what's going on everywhere right now, the chaos, the suffering, not at all. But how do you have the emotional resilience to survive and get through things? How can we do this? Well, first we have to not lose who we are. We have to remember who we are and keep coming back to ourselves. That is the only stable center while everything else is changing. it's this changeless background. And I talk about that with my friend in this video here about self-realization and how to know who you are. And it's not that who we are while in this relative reality that we can perceive necessarily all of it, this divinity that we can merge with. So our individual separate ego self, we feel alone when we're like, yeah, I'm a separate self in this world trying to make it. But when I renounce that, when I become a child, when I can laugh, when I can put down my beliefs and just be who I am, I can merge with a greater sense of self, this divinity, this absolute. And when I do that, there's no suffering. I just feel the peace of that. I'm given energy. I'm given resources. I'm given what I need to be able to weather the storm. And so that's when I was waking up and then received that message. Why are you chasing your room? You're skinny. Because I was still in that hypnagogic state between sleep and wake, where the conditioned mind has shut down enough, where we can dream, we can access our subconscious much easier, and we can receive information. I often will be going to sleep at night or waking up in the morning asking myself questions, just rhetorical. I thought they were rhetorical. I'm a question person. I'm always asking something, trying to understand something or figure things out. And then I was very surprised when I started getting answers. They're not always the right answers, and you have to be very discerning about where it's coming from. Very discerning. Sometimes you could just be channeling your own ego. Sometimes you're open to things you don't want to be open to, right? And so there are ways you can kind of put restrictions and limitations, and you can turn it on and turn it off. I've turned it off before for a whole year. I was like, I don't want this. I just went away. And I was like, okay, fine, you can turn it on again. It just came back the same day, right? So it's just this access. I believe it's my higher self that I'm speaking with, but it could also just be a part of my subconscious that has aggregated thousands of pieces of information, how emotions do, and just giving me a different form of information than what my conscious mind is aware of. It can help me see beyond blind spots. So I'm just sharing this in case this helps you. Actually, I do have a video that I've touched on this about differentiating between this inner voice versus an inner critic or conditioned ego. So I'll link that here. And as we can get in touch with our intuition by getting very still, by remembering who we are, we can also get that guidance that we need when the information out there feels so confusing. There is an incredible video. I'm going to try to find it and link it here by a near-death experiencer, Vinnie Tolman. It's amazing. I've watched near-death experience videos for, I don't know, maybe a decade or more, just hundreds and hundreds of them. And they tell us so much information of people who have seen beyond the veil, things we can't see, and they come back, and it's very interesting. So it is secondhand information for me. I haven't had a near-death experience, but it's incredible to me how it just fits in line with what non-duality is talking about. It fits in line with what most beliefs and faiths are talking about. Like you can see the common threads. It fits in line with what quantum physics is talking about. And it's just these ways of believing that humanity has formed, or these ways of investigating through science that are helping us see beyond what we can perceive behind this veil. And so for me, I love to connect these dots and see where they overlap and investigate and cross-check. And it's fun because it's really nice to be able to expand the perspective around what's happening here. when things feel so hard and they can feel so restricted. And I've mentioned the books by Robert Schwartz and Michael Newton. I have a video about that here, where it also widens the perspective of why we're here, our identity, things we may have pre-planned. And that has really helped me in difficult times rather than being trauma identified with the traumas I've gone through and the traumas of the people that I work with when I work with people one-on-one. And it helps to expand this perspective, because then when we can frame it in a way that we understand there's more than what we can see here. I don't mean in a naive way, only in a way that helps you, not in any way that invalidates what you're experiencing, what is true for you. Only take what actually feels helpful for you, and not in a way that we're bypassing, because we do need to feel through the impact of the things that have happened to us. But once we felt that through, we can be free of it. And that expanded perspective is what aids in that freedom. And that expanded perspective is not only of what happened to us and why we might be here and for what purpose, but it's the expanded perspective of who we are. We're not this limited individual self in absolute reality. Yes, in this relative reality, I am playing the role of a female of Indian descent who's a somatic experiencing practitioner. I do that, but it's not my ultimate identity. When this body dies, but it's still here, no one's going to say Nina's still here, right? I can't be this body. This body has all different cells than 7 years ago. It looks totally different than when I was a baby. Can I be this ever-changing body? I can't orient my happiness to this ever-changing body. Otherwise, I'm going to be on a roller coaster. I have to hang my hat onto something that will never change, my identity. And so this identity has to be something that's changeless while everything else is changing. And I'm explaining this because these non-dual principles are so useful when all this phenomenon in the world, it's always changing. I think it's more in our face right now than ever before, possibly. But it's always been changing. Nothing ever stays the same. The only constant is change, right? So how do you find your center? With all of this stuff, you can't practically and realistically attune to everything that's going on. You can try, and you'll see it might make you feel like you're spinning. And I'm not saying don't be informed. Be informed. But at the end of the day, if you're feeling stress and anxiety around it, which would also make sense, I want to validate that too. But if you want to get some relief from that, keep asking yourself, and who am I with all this happening? Who am I? Does that change? Can I be still? Can I be like a child? Can I access that part of me that none of this can touch? None of this will ever affect the part of me, the only part, the real me, that I will take with me from here after death. Invest in that, and you can't lose, because we're going to lose everything else, right? We're going to lose everything we own, everyone we love, one day. It doesn't have to all be at once. If this is triggering, just don't even think about this. But that's what non-duality is. It's coming to terms with our death, the death of those we love. I'm on this path because I lost my mom when I was a child, and the grief went on for 22 years. And even now, of course, I still miss her. I think of her every day, right? So please know, I'm not saying this from a place of not having experienced loss. It's the defining theme of my life and why I'm on this path. But it gets people on a path like this, where you're like, okay, this is real. This happens. How can I face it? How can I be with this and not go under? So this is what I want to share with you, that this path is around, okay, everything I own, everything right now, as I look around my place, in 100 years, it's going to be in a landfill, right? So anything new that I get, Hey, I can remember before I get attached to it, one day this is going in a landfill. When we meet a new person, hello, this is amazing. One day there's going to be a goodbye. And I feel really sad in my body right now as I even think of that, right? But just having that larger perspective can keep us centered when things get hard. I have a video about attachments that I will link here that starts going deep into this work. And there are a few videos made after it where I lay out some of the teachings that my teacher has taught me around attachments and happiness and suffering. So I will end this here. I just felt inspired to share. I know I've promised you all about making the Taking Your Power Back series. I will do that. It's on my list. It's one of the first things I'll be doing. I've been so busy, but I do plan to get some time to film soon. So I hope you're all doing well. Stay centered. Know who you are. You've got this. You can do this. Feel free to share below what's going on for you, if you've tried this, if it helps. I sincerely wish you well. I'll see you next time. Take care.